Tinkermaster here with another mod for the DR650. This is for the 96 to current model year 2020. We're looking at a set of factory pegs on the left there with the factory mounts and the factory bolts. And on the right here we have the IMS pegs, which are all stainless steel. They didn't polish all of it, but they polished the outer lip, the part that's visually seen when you're riding or looking at it. Bought these online from OEM Cycles. They sell stuff on eBay. Very fast shipping, very good communication, and overall for a $75 buy delivered with tax, I thought it was a pretty good deal. And up on the top center there are the lowering mounts. These are the offset mounts. They're down 1 inch and offset back 1 inch. And these were through ProCycle, and these are made by J&S Engineering. And these are steel, and they are pretty substantial. Looks like it's 3/8 of an inch thick steel flat stock that they had CNC cut and pre-bent, and they welded all the way around. And it looks to be good workmanship, good quality. The pinholes are precision drilled. Don't see any issues or have any complaints at all, and I'm very happy with ProCycle and their delivery method and communication as well. So the lowering pegs came with new bolts. Make sure you got your mechanics Loctite lipstick here, and I would use the blue and probably about 1/4 of the thread. I would go ahead and use the blue on it, and some kind of, doesn't have to be high temp, doesn't have to be extreme pressure either, but some kind of lubricant for the actual pins and just the parts that they actually ride on and pivot. Just a little bit of grease, not enough to draw attention of soil and sediments in the air and such. And the only other thing you'll need is new cotter pins, and whatever size is in here for cotter pins, excuse me for that, make sure you use the largest size that you can fit through the hole, and make sure that you bend them down on both sides or however you feel comfortable so that you've got adequate protection holding them on so they don't shear off. And really all you're going to need for this is just a pair of diagonal cutters and something to pull them apart, and you'll have to transfer the pins and the springs and bolt them on. This is an unboxing, if you will. It's already been unboxed, but we're taking a look at the componentry, and I will do a on the bike view when we're done. Stop and make a direct comparison here real quick. On the left I have a factory peg, and on the right I have an IMS. This is the Pro Series peg, and there's a pretty big difference in the width. Length is pretty much the same, but the width is a big difference. And the profile, the factory tooth on the tip, you can see that it is a little bit raised up, but the Pro peg has a little bit more of a raised up end on it. And when you're riding, when you're putting pressure on the outside peg, if you're making a turn, it's going to give you a little bit more of a positive feel, which should improve their performance and ride feel, especially getting away from the rubber mounting and the little hubs here, which deflect under load, and they just don't give you a very positive feel. They kind of feel like they're rolling underneath your feet. These are going to be rigid mounted, so they'll be direct mounted to the frame, and you'll have a good positive feel. And the second part of the peg that I wanted to look at is in the actual embossing that rides, that transfers the load ultimately. This IMS peg is very well built. It feels substantial, and it's made from stainless, and it is considerably thicker than the factory Suzuki peg. And the factory Suzuki peg has a little ledge that's been welded on, and really it's kind of just been tack welded on. It does not look very strong. I mean, it's probably designed for its useful life of the bike. But if you hit some rocks or hit some other things or just general fatigue, I see these going away fairly quickly. I don't ever see the IMS pegs having a problem. Just wanted to point that out. Quality material and the workmanship is very good. One side note, installing the pin and getting everything lined up will be a little bit of a chore. Everything doesn't go perfectly, but I didn't have to alter any of the holes. Everything fit together. Everything articulates as it should, but it did require a persuasion tool. So add that to your list of diagonal cutters, some kind of needle nose, and some kind of small ball peen hammer. Alright, here they are all put together. And just an attention to detail note, when you put the cotter pins in, point them down and don't leave something there that you're going to snag something on. Fold them up however you want to. I realize some of this is a little subjective, but it's just a detail that I like to do. I'm going to rotate this one around. Doesn't really matter, but that's the way I like to put these on, so you don't have these pins come off or woggle out or be an issue. They're there to be a safety measure, so use it. Alright, we got the pegs put on here, and one more feature detail here that you're going to need to take into account is that you now, because you dropped this 1 inch, are ultimately, to get this back to level, about 1 inch high on your rear brake lever arm. And so in order to fix that, you will need to pull the pin out in the back so that you can make an adjustment, and you're going to need to bring this up, bring it up, and utilize more of this thread here so that this end will drop. And it all depends on your riding and I guess function for you, but for me, in order to do this, this pin length in here is too long, and I'm going to have to probably take, I would say probably a good 3/8 of an inch off of that in order to thread it up, or it's going to hit and bind on the pivot here. So one detail to take into account, and likewise that same concern is extended to the shift lever, which is not a bad thing, because right now, again, same issue. We're at about 1 inch down, and to be quite honest with you, this is a factory adjustment, and I don't really like where it was from the factory. It was 1 click too high for me anyway. So I'm going to have to go probably 2 splines down. I was just going to drop the peg about 1 inch on the tip of the shifter here, not the peg, but the peg of the shifter, and that way I don't have any issues there, and it'll be comfortable. Anyway, just one little thing you're going to need to take into account probably before you even go for a ride. We'll be going to our test ride next. Alright, we're doing a final adjustment update here. So after installation, to get the shifting peg tip back down to where it's reasonable for riding was only 1 spline adjustment, and the bolt will have to be removed all the way. You can slide it off and just slide it down 1 spline, and that was perfect. And as far as the brake lever goes, I went ahead, never cut if you don't have to, but I was able to adjust this rod down as far as I could get it, and you can't go any further anyway, and it doesn't impede on that action arm stroke of the brake cam there. So there's no cutting required. You're really limited on how far you can go down by the brake switch adjustment here. And as you come down with the brake arm, which it sets just below the plane if I put the level back on there of the peg, which is perfect for me. If you wanted to trail brake and stand, you could trail brake and stand, and it would be comfortable. And so cotter pin, replace it on the back when you pull it off. Never reuse a cotter pin. It's a safety device. It's meant to be replaced, not reused. And this is a 17mm nut up here on the brake light adjustment, and you can turn this just a little tiny rotation at a time and hold this with a wrench and adjust it without having to take it all apart, and get yourself where you get it adjusted. you get this portion back together and then do your final adjustment on the nut here and turn your key on and make sure that you've got your brake lights working on activation, and you're not leaving them on all the time or not having them work at all. And look up your factory torque specs on your bolts. I torqued these to 35 foot-pounds. Verify your own sources there, and they're installed and ready to go. So give an update after a ride here, and we'll go from there.